What?
What are we talking about?
Our favorite dancers and influences.
Oh.
And
okay.
I already turned on the lives. So we better get going.
Welcome to this week's Rock Talks, everyone. I'm Perizaad. And this week, apparently, we're talking about our favorite dancers and influences. You see how much planning goes into this. Woo!
So, hi.
Yeah. Hi.
I thought it would be fun to talk about like some of our favorite dancers, because it tends to be that if we really enjoy someone, there's usually something about it that we want to emulate, and that tends to then influence our dance. So,
well, and I mean, that's when we were first doing our interview questions, that it was going to be a light and fluffy piece. That was one of the main questions that we wanted to ask dancers, because it's so interesting to see like where people pull their influences from. And also it's just great to like broaden your knowledge of dancers, is to find out who, you know, other dancers are watching. So I'm for it.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of just somebody like, gosh, I've had so many influences. And for example, Zara, who is one of my, or she was when she still lived out here in LA, one of my teachers. And one of the things that I love about her is just her very like just serene style. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm a serene dancer. I'm usually like but I do like that style. And as we know from the discussion about competitions, in my effort to emulate that, I took it a little too far. But because that's something that I really love about her style, that ended up influencing the way I dance. So so she's one of my favorites, but that wasn't like, I have a list of people that are my favorites, but I want to hear some of your. First, just tell me who your favorites are. There is one answer that needs to be on there.
Yes, I'm aware. It's Shalina. No, I'm kidding. No, of course. No, like I've said this multiple times that, oh, I know, but you're also one of my biggest influences, obviously. But like, it's one of those things where, you know, because we've had a particularly interesting relationship because we've been friends for so long, and we've been friends through very, very developmental parts of my life. You know, because for those of you who don't know, which you should know by now, my God, how many times have we said it? I met Faizeh. She was my very first belly dance teacher, and I met her when I was 17 years old. So I've known her through the very last part of high school, all the way through college, in my 20s, and now into my 30s. So like, those are parts of your life where you develop a lot and you learn a lot about yourself. And, you know, so there are moments where you're like, I'm awful, and only the people who I love know anything. And then there are parts where like, I'm hot shit and nobody can tell me anything. And through all of those, I have been friends with Faizeh. And even when I was being a little shit, when I actually sat down and I watched her dance, she could always blow me away with her style and her technique. There's just always a softness and a gracefulness that my 5'10" Viking self will never accomplish. So,
well, that means a lot to me, that you feel like that I'm, you know, that you could watch me and think that I was a good dancer. And it's just,
there's always going to be things, because, you know, you are one of those dancers that dances almost every day when it's not pandemic times. And when you're not staring out windows waiting for your husband to come home from the war. But Um,
I'm totally,
but
what is Odysseus's wife's name? It's like,
isn't it Penelope?
I was gonna say, is that Penelope? Yeah, so that's me.
Yeah, just
That instead of waiting for him to come home from the war, I'm waiting him to emerge from the home office.
you know what?
Anyway.
It's not the same track, but it can be just as perilous.
Yes. Well, especially if he's playing WoW. So
Yeah. You can die a lot of ways in a WoW.
It's true. Anyway, carry on. What were you saying?
So, I mean, my favorites right now, I'm so sorry. My eyes are so watery today because I'm just like, blah. I mean, my favorites right now, like, are two of them are in our little girl squad. It's Adrienne and Laura because they're so different. They're both like working so much to be such modern dancers, but because one is so focused in Egyptian and one is so focused in Turkish, and they have completely different personalities as well. Like Adrienne is just in my mind, Adrienne is just explosive, like in a shabby kind of way, and then Laura can be so lyrical. She moves like liquid silk. I think I'm frozen.
No, not anymore. You were.
No, I'm not frozen.
Now you are.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Delight.
Go ahead. I know it's live, and it's the internet and it's COVID, and what are you gonna
do? What did you hear? What was the last thing you heard?
We heard pretty much all of it. The only part we missed was Adrienne something explosive.
Oh, Adrienne is just like the way she dances. She's just really, really like explosive and like really, really like, to me, a lot of what I see in like modern shabby. Whereas Laura is just, like she's like liquid silk. My God, she's like all the time, like the hair, the body, all of it. Nuts. But they are two of my favorite dancers. Aziza of Montreal will always be one of my favorites. Always. Like I'll think I'm over Aziza and then I'll watch a video of hers and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so in love. Every time.
that happens a lot. I'll be like, like you'll see a video of somebody and you're like, you still enjoy it, but you're like, I'm not as madly in love with this person. I enjoy this performance, but it's not like blowing my mind. And then like 10 minutes later, you see another one and they're just like, and you're weeping because it's so amazing. And then that's the moment, she was probably like on her period or something. So, so this wasn't the greatest performance ever or whatever,
Yeah. Or it's like a video that you watched that you've like rewound and watched, like, well, rewind, but like you've gone back and you've watched over and over and over again. And they're like, I guess I'm less in love with this now. But then you see them live and you're like,
Totally. That's me all the time with all kinds of people. Like, yeah. So I was going to say like someone that I will never be, but she's like #goals is Fifi, because you are frozen. No, you're not. She's just Fifi. And that's all you have to say about her. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, she is. And I like, even when she's just like screwing around, because I was looking for a picture of her to post on our Instagram. And there's like, that you are legend if the first thing that comes up when you Google is, 10 Fifi memes that will give you life. If you have like an entire page of memes about you, then the rest of us could just pack up and go home.
Yeah, I mean, like, not even, but like to have specifically like you had so many memes that they had to choose 10 for their article.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so then of course I went and looked at that, and some of them were just like, there was one and she's like clearly just at a wedding. It's like this really short video, and someone's like zooming in on her and pulling back, and she's sitting next to another person, and it's like, to me it looks like she's just trying to enjoy herself, but someone's like, there's Fifi and I'm gonna videotape her. So she's like smiling at them, and she's like dancing to the music that's going on in the background, like, you require me to dance, so I'm going to dance in my seat, even though I'm trying to have a conversation here with my friends. But she's like gracious, and still like sitting in a chair, like better than all the rest of us, you know. And it's just amazing, you know.
Yeah.
Roxanne did an homage to her at one of the showcases several years ago, one of my showcases that I put on up here, the License to Zill showcase. And it was so fun. She came out in a similar costume. There's
Yeah.
captain. Yeah. And she comes out, she's got these big old heels on, and she like kicks them off. And it was just really, really, it was a fun routine. And I was like, yes, someday I want someone to do an homage to me. And it's just going to be, they're going to go on the stage and go to sleep.
My homage is that they're just going to stand around and like and just do eyebrows the whole time, like, I'm the greatest. Look at me. I'm doing nothing. I just think I'm great.
You know,
but my hair and makeup are fabulous.
That'll carry you pretty far. If you, I mean, if you
pretending to be
pull it off, if you could pull off the personality, that's like half of the show.
You know, but it's time to do more than personality, I feel.
Yes.
Feel like
I'm not going to say, nah, don't worry about your technique. I will never say that.
Just, just it's got me, people like me, and that's great. But it's
time. Yes, I get that. Yeah, so obviously Fifi is one of my favorites, and for a long time I was much more heavily into fusion styles, and so I just, Ariella is like, she really, even though I grew up in, when goth wasn't even called goth yet, it was we call it, when I was young.
Was it new wave? No.
New wave was not goth. I was a new wave gal, new romantic, neuro. I was neuro. That's what we called it. And no, the goth people were like, it was like death rock. That was what we called it back in the early 80s. Death rock. So like the Cure was death rock. So yeah. Lots of women my age are like, we were goth before it was goth.
But like it's so funny to me because there's like such different version. Because like when you say the Cure, I'm just like, Friday, I'm in love. And like associating that with goth is really weird. But I also know they had like, I am the sun, I am the air. So like anyway, off topic. Sorry. Hi folks.
No. But something that she really was and is so amazing with is the beauty that comes with death and decay. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, she's so, like, there is beauty in this. It's not like our overarching culture is really into like we just kind of look at, you're dead, and so that's bad, but she kind of drives home that there's a certain beauty in that, because there is no, like, for my takeaway is there's no like rebirth without the death and decay. But I remember she did a photo shoot at this like there were tombstones and stuff like that. And this is, 15 years ago or something like that. But it just was so stunning and quiet. And anyway, but her dancing is so she was in ballet that predates her time in belly dance, and she kind of brings that to her belly dance. And she has on her YouTube channel like little short, almost daily videos just to she leads you through like, let's keep moving, and here's a 3-minute exercise that you can do. And so she's still doing that, and it's just like strange and beautiful, if that makes sense.
It does.
And one thing that, and you may recall this because I taught it to my students anytime we did anything that was supposed to be gothy, like yes. One of the workshops that I took from her, it was about, doing kind of dark, creepy stuff in your dance. And she's like, all you have to do to turn something from, here I am, I'm doing this, let's do snake arms. And we're going to come walking towards our audience and we're doing snake arms. Isn't that nice? Okay. And she's like, tilt your head down, and it instantly becomes creepy. And we all tilted our heads down. And it was like, oh my gosh, like such a subtle movement turns this into from here I come to here I come. And it was cool. And so I feel like that actually, given my that was influential for me in starting to understand how to incorporate not necessarily a story, which is what I like to do with the cosplay belly dancing now, but more of like a theatrical aspect. So that was influential for me in developing things that I do now, 15 years later, my understanding of how to keep it belly dance but make it have a story, or make it have, for me. So sorry, I've just gone off on this whole thing about Ariella, but
I mean, that's what we're doing.
True.
I'll be right back. I just need something because like my eye won't stop tearing.
Oh no. Okay, well then I'll just keep talking about other people. So
go on back.
You're back. That was much quicker than I expected.
I'm just gonna make it really old timey and have like an old handkerchief here.
So I have to say,
people who are like freaked out by eye touching are gonna be really like grossed out by this video. I'm sorry.
I'm not. So I have to say, since we started this channel also, one of the interviews that is not going to be aired for a few weeks is our interview with Alia. And I've known her for about a decade, and I've just really become a huge, huge fan of hers in recent years. And I loved our interview with her, and I'm really excited to share it with everybody because her dancing is beautiful. And if you friends out in the world, if you got to see the Remembering Retta show that Adrienne and I put on, she did just this beautiful Falahi suite.
Falahi piece.
And it was so funny because it's a fairly simple thing. And Drew was like, he didn't understand why all the comments, everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing ever. And he's like, she's just switching her skirt around. I mean, after I explained this whole show is like an Egyptian dancers, nerds, nerd, whatever, Then he understood.
Right.
But it was beautiful. The way she did it was beautiful. And
it was.
And so she's like somebody that I really, really have come to. I feel like I have lost a lot by not appreciating her more sooner. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I've missed out on the last 10 years. Like only the last couple of years have I really started to appreciate her the way she deserves, you know? So
yeah, she's just, she's so knowledgeable, and there's just so much to be. Yeah, she's fab. It's just, and it's one of those things where it's like, it's one of those things where you're like, where have you been for the last 10 years? You've been here. I just was dumb. Sorry. Yeah. Hi, I'm here now. I'm here now.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm excited to see more from her. I don't know if she's planning on doing more than the things that will be revealed in the interview. But
secrets.
Yeah. What did you say?
I said secrets.
Yes. Well, I don't want to reveal, I don't want to tell her stuff.
I know. So hard though. So anyway.
Yeah. So that's another person that I'm finding. I suspect that she's going to have a bit more influence on me and like how I pursue things in the future as well. Just if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then for me, like a really recent influence, well, I mean, she was our third guest on the show, Roxanne Shalaby. Like everything she puts up, I'm just like, ugh. And part of it's because she knows so much and she knows everybody in SoCal. But part of it's also, because she is an educator, she delivers things in such a fabulous way that it's easy to comprehend, and it's informational, and it's entertaining, and it's just like, I'm like Corey Zamora. I'm going to be like, oh my God, the Fez doc till the day I die. So,
right.
That's still one of my favorite. I mean, that's why I used it. That's why I used it in my piece for Visions of Vintage, was because it's so lovely I love all the video that like they were able to find that was shot inside the Fez, and you become so nostalgic for something you've never experienced.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
And that whole like everything about that video is like what made me want to like. I only saw the video. She only made the documentary a few years ago, but like that is what made me want to become a belly dancer. Like all of the stuff as I understood it, that's when I watched the documentary, it was like, yes, this all makes so much sense to me. And and I learned a whole bunch, and just hearing all of the stories. I love hearing the stories. It's my favorite thing is listening to dancers tell like how they came to belly dance, or how they learned this, or this influential moment for them that changed everything, or whatever, or this jerk, or this was the most hilarious thing that ever happened to me while I was dancing. I love those stories. And that's,
or hearing, or hearing like, oh, so-and-so always wears her costume this way. Well, so-and-so always wears her costume this way because this, and this happened at an event. There's a reason for it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's just, it's like Amani said to us like a while ago. It's like I feel like belly dancers in particular are just so like, about like our oral history. It's like the stories, like you need to know why things came from where, and you need to know the stories. And if you don't, they're like, how have you never heard this story before? Like,
yeah, it's true. And even though Amani created a monster, or a two-headed monster with the two of us, I do like that she kind of put that on us. I think we were kind of headed towards that anyway, like even if we were just going to keep it fluffy all the time. But I like I like that it directed us the way we're going. If that,
Yeah.
because I enjoy hearing what everybody has to share and their thoughts, and it's just it's really really delightful to me. And yeah, there was something that just entered my head that I know about the Fez. Just incidentally, this Saturday, I believe, there's going to be a live airing of the Fez on the internet. So if you have not seen it yet, or even if you have, it's just, I encourage you to watch it because, yeah. So, yeah. Any other influences for you? You want to talk
So there's
about
you, obviously.
me?
There's you, obviously. There's yes, and then there's Jelena. My God, I was obsessed with her when I was very, very young. I mean, still am. Like, what am I saying?
I was like,
you're like, shut up. No, like, yeah, she's definitely the person who I met, and I cried all over when I met her, and she very graciously, like, anyway.
Yeah.
So I cried all over Jelena. Aziza Montreal. And then, of course, like,
Oh, I was just gonna say she's like 2 feet tall and so intimidating. So just because of
Jelena?
Yes, because of her Jelena-ness. Like
Yeah. No, there's so many dancers that I'm like, oh, they're like 5'8", and it's like they're all 5 foot, and it's just like, what?
Yeah.
So there's so many of them. But my outside influences from belly dance, just like who I am as a person, like what I bring to belly dance is going to be musical theater, specifically Fosse.
That makes sense.
I'm a Fosse gal for sure. Laura was over a couple days ago, and I sang most of Cabaret at her. I mean, she was into it because she was singing along, but there was like a song that
is she doing the harmony?
I mean, yeah, because there's a song that's in the production that's in the stage production that isn't in the movie, and so she'd never heard it. I was like, let me sing the entire thing for you right now. So yeah, no, but I'm very, very heavily influenced by musical theater, which is why like I'm so dramatic. Like if this were just a Zoom call between Faizeh and me to like catch up and you guys weren't on it, I wouldn't have this makeup on, but I'd still be very dramatic about like how tired I am or this annoying thing that happened at work. I would still tell it in the most dramatic way that I possibly could. Because that's who I am as a person. It's exhausting for me too. Don't worry.
I would say
what about you, babe?
My outside, like, because I was a theater minor my freshman year of college, and then realized I can't act. So I was like, I think I'm just going to focus on writing. And so that was because I was an English major. Yeah, it just got rid of the theater aspect. But I do enjoy that aspect. I mean, I was in drama all the way through high school. And so that was my drama teacher I still consider her, even though it's been over 30 years, one of the most influential people in my life because it was formative years. And so Marilyn Pilkey, she was very influential in my life. But I was going to say, two of my dance teachers that were not teaching me belly dance, Dr. Robin Friend, classical Persian, and Carolyn Kruger, Uzbeki and other Central Asian dance styles. And Robin was teaching me classical Persian. And those are not, obviously, it's interesting to me because in the SCA, I have moved away from belly dance.
Excuse me.
Gesundheit. not that I don't still belly dance in the SCA. That is why I joined the SCA, because it was just an extra place where I get to belly dance for fun and not have it be my job. But the longer I was in the SCA, the more I wanted to do like something that was appropriate for my persona. And so I started really focusing on what I could piece together as period Persian styles. And so that's why I started taking classical Persian. And yeah, that still does influence my Raqs Sharqi. But what I was going to say is it's always really, really interesting to me when I'm talking to somebody in the SCA that really doesn't study Middle Eastern culture, really doesn't study Middle Eastern dance. And they dabbled in it, or they enjoyed it, they took classes or whatever, but they didn't study it. And they will liken what I do now in the SCA, like when I'm performing for an arts event,
Right.
and they'll call it belly dance. And this is just, they don't know. And I need to recognize that it's just, they're not trying to be jerks, but it is like nails on a chalkboard for me. It's like, this is nothing like what I do in my modern job.
Yeah.
Two are very, very different. You may notice I did not shimmy at all while I was doing this dance. And yeah, but it is interesting when people are like, oh yeah, or they try to tell me, what I'm doing wrong or whatever, and I'm just like, okay. Person who doesn't actually know.
You should have shimmied more. I really shouldn't have, and I didn't.
Exactly. I'm not doing that. And I took a really great class when I went to Gulf Wars when I was queen. And Mistress Roz was the teacher, and it was pre-Islamic. She did two classes. She did a Turkish style, period Turkish style dance, and a pre-Islamic Egyptian dance class. And both of those were fantastic and very much influenced dance as I pursued it in my medieval life.
Yeah.
Because I just hadn't been able to see any connection with the two. Like, here's my hobby, and I do dance in my hobby, but here's what I do in my modern life. And they're both Middle Eastern, but the two shall never. But that's when I really started studying the history of Raqs and stuff like that. And so I learned actually a lot about what I do now because of things that I started studying from ancient and medieval dance. So anyway, it's fun, and I like it. I don't know if you knew that I liked to dance, but I do. And I like to study. I like to do the research. It's actually enjoyable for me because I'm a nerd. So yeah.
That was something that Laura and I talked a little bit too, because she was part of the UCSB Middle Eastern Ensemble with Alexandra King. They study Persian and Turkish styles, and so we were actually talking a lot about, like, first of all, like, the motivations between classical Persian and belly dance are very different. They're very disparate. Because the way Laura broke it down is that basically when you're doing classical Persian, it's Islamic basically, and whenever you're doing Persian dance, you are a woman looking for her beloved in a garden, which is why you have like the cypress tree pose and like all these different poses, and the beloved is never Habibi. Ahmed or whoever. No, like the beloved is Allah. So yeah, no, I'm not shimmying for Allah when I'm dancing to like, I want to see you belly dance. Like, no, very different, very, very different. So it's just, it's, you know, and like, it's like you say, you know, one of the great things about America is that we live in a country where you can be influenced by 1,000 different cultures. One of the things that's kind of is just what people say in ignorance without any malice. Sometimes with malice, but also sometimes without malice.
Yeah. And, you know, and then you have to determine whether they're interested in actually hearing, you know, what actually, and that's true in belly dance as well. Does this person actually want to hear, you know, what the truth is, or what, and, you know, some people really.
Do they want to hear history, or do they want to know how to do the sexy moves?
Right. And yeah, exactly. And if you're my student, you get to have your own reasons, but you're going to learn the history whether you want to or not. Because to me, that's how you show respect for a culture in which you are a visitor. So
yes.
So anyway, we've been at this for 40 minutes now. So yeah, I'm going to shut off the YouTube.
Well, let's sign off first.
Yes.
Okay.
Good idea. I'm just going to end it mid-sentence.
Yeah. All right. So, everyone, when you watch this, please tell us in the comments who your favorite dancers, aside from us, and who your big influences are, because we would love, I mean, we always love to, I mean, that's how we found Chutney Rocks, was because a bunch of our friends just kept bringing her up in interviews, and then we watched her stuff, we're like, oh my God, we have to have her on the show. So we would love to hear more about like who your favorite dancers are, who your influences are. Tell us about your history. What did you do before belly dance that influences your dance as well? Because I know when I was in a hip hop class, there was one time that we had to do this move across the floor, be very like, with it. But like, I'm so belly dance at the time that I was like, and like very showgirl with it as I'm like doing this slide across the floor. It was, yeah. Because I mean, this thing, you know, not only do we bring everything to it, but, you know, we also bring this dance into everything else in our lives. So tell us where you bring it in your life, and tell us what influences it outside. But otherwise, next week we have our interview with Mariana Belly Dance that's going to be up. She's got some really cool things that we talked about when it comes to fitness and just how to stay in this dance and stay focused in this dance, and how to longevity.
Yeah. And that was such a fun interview. That was such a fun interview.
We also found out that she's a massive geek like us, so that was fantastic.
Well, honestly, it was the geekiness that made me want to interview her. That was she shared that the Mandalorian thing on her Instagram, and after I saw that is when I was like, hey, want to be on our show? That's me typing.
That's how I said I type at people. We just do this.
Or like this, like the cat. Anyway.
Like the cat. anyway. Tell us what you'd like about, tell us who your influences are. Look out for Mariana's interview Wednesday next week. But otherwise, I'm Perizaad.
Faizeh.
Give us a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next week. Masalama. I'm going to dance until you turn it off.
Okay.